You know that friend who just constantly texts you to ask how you're doing? That's the type 2. 2's lives are about relationships, creating them, maintaining them, and basking in their warmth. 2's love to love. But that sounds pleasant and unproblematic, which we don't do here, so let's pop the hood. The 2 fixation basically looks like giving to get. 2's have a gaping hole in their self-esteem, and they use other people's love and appreciation to fill it. So, someone with this complex will show you care and kindness because they need it back. They need to hear thank you, you're worth something. The ideal state for a 2 is one where people need them. What could be better than that? Someone relies on you, someone needs you, you're important, gold star. And so at their unhealthiest, 2's will keep you in a state of needing them so that they can play mama bear. One of my favorite 2's to recently enter the zeitgeist is Pim from Smiling Friends. Pim will stop at nothing to make the people around him happy. He's the poster child for his organization. His warmth knows no bounds, which is why I love the Enchanted Forest episode, because it shows how easily a 2's darkness can be revealed. What happens when you don't appreciate 2's? Well, they start to feel resentful. After all I did for you, how could you overlook me? How could you neglect me? I'm the nicest person ever. It's not fair. And they can really turn into these gremlin rage monsters. It's wild. So what is a 2 story? That's all that really matters here. Well, if a 2 craves the love and appreciation of others to bolster their self-worth, then growth for a 2 means getting over it, learning to be alone, finding their own authentic self-esteem. Often this can look like selfishness. The 2 gives and gives and gives, but at a certain point they need to be like, no, I'm going to do something for me, I'm going to rest. Of course, the what can stay the same and only the why changes. That works too.
But the Avengers don't do the job because they need it. They do the job because people need them.
I'm not doing it because I need it. I'm doing it because they do.
Bringing Out the Dead is one of those Martin Scorsese movies that nobody knows about. It's about a paramedic played by Nick Cage who completely exhausts himself in the service of others and attaches his self-worth to saving lives. Given the line of work he's in, he's often disappointed. He can't save everyone and it haunts him. So what's the moment of growth for this guy? What's the turning point of positive change? Take a guess. If you answered, he f***ing kills someone, you would be right. The big moment of growth for this lifesaver is ending a life, and the story frames it as a triumphant moment for him because it is. It's the antithesis of everything his self-worth is hinged on. I will beat the drum of moral neutrality in stories all day. It's not about a character being bad and then becoming good. It's about health, it's about actualization, and that can look really dark sometimes depending on your symbolic framework. Another classic 2 story is the person looking for connection, because they think it's going to solve their problems, or more specifically, looking for love. When the 2 fixation manifests in a one-to-one or sexual way, they can funnel all of that energy into a relationship, and it's exactly what you'd expect. When 2's choose their person, TM, that relationship can occupy 100% of their brain. So 2's are the obvious candidate for the romantic, the Romeo of your story. But there can be this smothering, mothering quality to the 2's love as well.
You know I love you.
You have a very funny way of showing it.
Richard Rohr has always said the cultural expectation for motherhood in the West is 2-ness, so it's always very interesting to see this traditionally feminine complex turned on its head with male type 2's, because a female type 2 like Cassie from Euphoria can just 2 it up all over the place, and there are really no cultural guardrails. But with a male type 2 like King Aegon from House of the Dragon, we get to see how that love fixation clashes with the expectations of masculinity and leadership. This character is so fascinating to me because he fundamentally just wants to be wanted, but he's thrust into this position of absolute power and told he has to be the ultimate symbol of manliness and domination. We rarely see characters like that. It's an unusual mix of circumstances that leads to some really interesting moments. Like when Aegon finally sits the throne and you realize he legitimately wants to make his subjects happy even though he has no idea how to. Like, the dude never cared about power deep down, he just wanted to be wanted. When Aegon does become wrathful, it's always over his relationships. The straw that breaks the dragon's back is when his mother tells him she doesn't need or want him. Feeling completely emasculated and shamed, he decides to hop on his dragon and start some shit, which he isn't ready for, and it almost gets him killed. Anywho, if you've been watching the series, you know that my understanding of the Enneagram basically says the origin of each type fixation is toxic. The types are forms of unhealth, and your type is a bad thing you should unlearn. learn. But that being said, the 2 is the easiest type to paint with an uncritical brush. About Time is a movie that's mostly just positive 2 energy the whole way through. This guy wants to find love, he uses time travel to do it. He has some people-pleasing shenanigans earlier in the story, and there are moments where he has to let go of people who he connects really deeply with. But, his 2-ness is never really criticized. It's just like, oh yeah. Same with WALL-E. And writing catharsis is great. That's totally valid. But I find myself more drawn towards the ugly stuff. The more absolutely insane 2s are, the more compelling I find them. It's enjoyable to have a very straightforward, menacing villain, only to peel the layers back and realize you're dealing with a scorned lover or abandoned child. The 2 moves to 8 in stress, and the dichotomy, I can't believe I just said that, of outward rage and soft and needy interior can create some of the most fascinating characters ever.
Look upon your work, Mala.
You get these mob boss 2s in the vein of Lotso from Toy Story 3. They like to be the lords of their little communities where everyone relies on them, and they'll ask favors and expect tribute because of all they've done for you. I haven't gotten around to watching it, but I've heard Pablo Escobar from Narcos is depicted in this way. Christoph from The Truman Show is also a 2, as Truman begins to realize that his world is fake. Christoph does everything in his power to keep him in the dollhouse. It's for your own good, don't you understand? You belong here with me. The most depraved 2 I can think of is probably this lady Elsa from the movie Splice. Elsa grows a genetic human hybrid using her own DNA to raise as a daughter. But when the kid starts to like Elsa's partner more, she becomes bitter and starts to punish the kid, going so far as to chain her up to an operating table and mutilate her to make her more complacent. Raka Raka's Talk to Me is another example of 2 themes in horror. Talk to Me explores a Type 2 Gen Zer named Mia who becomes increasingly more disturbed in her need for love and connection. The 2 themes bleed all the way down to the film's symbology. Look at the hand, the reaching out, the way these characters subject themselves to immense danger because the catharsis of feeling loved and connected is just such a drug. Another recent example is Alien Romulus. At the start of the movie, the protagonist, Rain, is stuck on a mining colony, and she keeps a synthetic named Andy around for company. She essentially lies to Andy, telling him that the 2 will run away together one day. In reality, a rogue synthetic would never be allowed to get on board an interstellar ship. Rain plans on abandoning him once she gets clearance to leave the planet. But as Andy becomes more self-aware, Rain is forced to confront the fact that she used this android for her own sense of companionship without really considering his needs and feelings. Rain redeems herself when she risks her life to save him, and the 2 actually run away together at the end as equals. There's something darkly 2-ish about the alien mythos in general. This idea of being forced to be an alien's parent, mother, the overbearing AI, the queen imagery, and Ripley's motherhood arc in the second movie, The Offspring, and how it initially wants Kay to take care of it and then lashes out when rejected. And again, the point I keep making, this doesn't even mean Rain is a 2. I mean, she's not real, but her internal struggle in the movie is 2-coded. That's how we know what it means for her to grow. A lot of 2 stories are about boundaries, like how far am I willing to go to help this person? Can I pull away from them even if they hate me for it? But the type of 2 story encapsulated by Rain works just as well, realizing you were doing it for yourself all along and then finding a deeper, more genuine altruism underneath. 2s are people who seek love in indirect ways. That could mean being needy, or it could mean making you need them and playing the savior. It could involve seduction. It could involve a degree of power like we see with the mob boss Lotso 2s. Nothing is off the table. Nothing except directly asking for love. That's the one thing they won't do. They're too proud to assert their needs. In terms of personality, 2s tend to be warm and caring and nurturing and friendly and all of those adjectives. 2s will also have very high opinions of themselves. 3s and 4s tend to be aware of their low self-esteem. If you ask a 3 about themselves and their place in the world, they're very future-oriented. They'll be like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm enough because I have to do thing. But if you ask a 2 what they think of themselves, they'll just be like, I'm a gift. I'm a ray of sunshine. My intentions are so pure, often not realizing that there are darker forces at work. So yeah, love, connection, reciprocity, people-pleasing. That's 2s. One more left. Very exciting. See you next week.